Hello, this is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com, and today we're going to be talking about trigger press. Now, a lot of you might be aware that the number one reason why new shooters miss is often because of something called shot anticipation. Shot anticipation is the body's natural reaction to an explosion about to happen in front of your face. For a lot of new shooters, every time I take them to the range, they're going to be flinching a lot. Not just because of their own gun going off, but because when you're in a range environment where there might be a lot of other people nearby, every time one of their guns go off and a person is not used to it, there's going to be kind of a jerk reaction that the body's naturally going to make because it's not natural for us to just be next to gunfire. Obviously, over time, it's something that develops and you become more used to it. But for new shooters, this could be a big problem. This is able to be resolved with two things: the way you pull the trigger and the way that you breathe. This drill is going to try to isolate both of those items and try to make it something that'll be much more natural to you and much more relaxed to you. Understand that this drill is mainly meant for people who are new to shooting, or if you realize you're having a day at the range where you're anticipating a lot, this is a good drill to be able to do just to kind of relax yourself, get yourself back into the zone, and really make sure that you're focusing on those fundamentals properly. Before we get too deep into the video, it might be important to note that we are now offering online training classes. If the range is too expensive, if you don't have time to be able to go to the range, or if you want to be able to support what we do here and still be able to gain from us, but you're not able to fly out for an actual class, you could check the link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, or you could click the link in our bio if you're watching this on Instagram to be able to get more information on that there. So what I have right over here is a US dime. You want to use a small dime. Ideally, I'll show you another method, which if you have someone helping you out, will probably be a little bit more ideal. But right now, this is able to work fine. What you're going to do is you're going to take this dime and you're going to balance it on the tip of the front sight. Now, the point of this is it's not meant to be doing it, you're not meant to be doing this fast. It's not supposed to be something that looks overly tactical. The point is simply that you're focusing on the way that the coin is balancing and making sure that you're not flinching when you perform this drill. So what you're going to do is that for this drill, I'm going to point it at the camera, but it doesn't obviously matter what you do with it. You're gonna have your finger high off the trigger. You're obviously gonna make sure your gun is unloaded. We're going to be doing this in dry fire. You're going to get a proper grip and make sure everything is level the way you want it to, and then you're going to point it. Now, when you point it, if you were to have a jerk reaction when you pull the trigger, the coin is potentially going to fall off. So you really want to make sure that that's level the entire time that you're doing this. So you can bring it in and out, making sure that this thing is level. The next thing is we're going to practice our breathing. So we're going to do a deep breath in, deep breath out. You could have your finger on the trigger and you could have it at the wall ready to fire. And then when you fire it, that means that I flinched just a little bit. The fact that the coin fell off is not just because of the spring and the trigger going off, but that could be that it was a movement that I dipped the gun just a little bit. So ideally, you want to be able to practice this and make sure that the gun stays level enough and stays straight enough that when you pull the trigger, the coin will still remain on the front sight. So let's talk about the process again really quick. Again, this is meant primarily for new shooters, or if you're just having a day that you're flinching a lot. This is not the conventional way that you want to practice pulling the trigger, because there are other things that you'd want to do ideally to be able to get back to follow-up shots very quickly. Again, this is meant just to kind of practice the fundamentals of breathing and trigger press initially, and then later train to different types of trigger presses. So what we're doing is we're doing a deep breath in. At the end of our deep breath, we do a slow deep breath out. While we're doing that, we have our trigger brought back all the way to the wall, ready to fire. If I were to have my finger right off the trigger, high off the trigger, and then right when I'm ready to fire, I slap it, it's very easy for the gun to jerk because there's all that time where your body's like, oh my God, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, fire, right? If we start already depressed, where the trigger is already depressed, and then we do deep breath in, deep breath in, deep breath out, and then click, we have much less area over there where the trigger is able to have that jerk reaction, which is when the anticipation can happen. So ideally, when you're practicing this, you want to make sure that those are the things that you're focusing on in order to reduce the likeliness of shot anticipation. The second method is very similar to the first method. There's only two differences. The first difference is that you're going to use a nickel instead of a dime. And the second difference is that instead of having the dime or the nickel balanced on top of the front sight, you're actually going to have it just behind the front sight. So you're going to actually have it standing behind the front sight just like that. And obviously you're going to want someone to be able to help you, because even if you were to get it to be balanced right over here, by the time you end up doing a full extension grip, it's going to roll off, and it's going to be obviously very difficult to do. So have someone help you with this, and you'll start off in a full grip position. You're ready to actually shoot. Have them put the coin there and balance it, and then do the exact same thing. Practice your breathing, practice your trigger press, and watch what happens to the nickel. This is a little bit more difficult than using the dime, because since the nickel is standing up, there's a lot more potential for it to roll. So you really want to be much more stable, focus on your breathing, focus on your trigger press in order for it to not fall off. Also, the reality is that once you pull the trigger, it's probably going to fall off, because even a little bit of movement of the spring going off could cause it to roll. But you could just carefully monitor yourself and watch yourself, even set up a camera and watch what your body does, and then see how much of a jerk reaction you had to pulling the trigger. And this could be a much better way to advance your skills when you're using a nickel instead of a dime. So to summarize, the point of this drill is mainly for practicing getting away from shot anticipation. It's something that everyone does, no matter what level of a shooter you are. If you overthink it, you're probably going to anticipate. A lot of professional shooters, when they're teaching about shot anticipation, will anticipate because it's naturally something you're focusing on. Over time, you're going to get used to it. It's going to be kind of a second thought to you, but it is something that happens every now and then. And this could be a very beneficial drill for you to practice in dry fire, to make sure that before you go to the range, you have your fundamentals down, specifically for trigger press and breathing. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.